When you say you want something, when you say you're all in, when you say this is your dream, your purpose, your calling, you better act like it. You better move like there's no other way out, no other direction but forward. You see, too many people talk about success, but they keep a parachute packed just in case it gets too hard, just in case it takes too long, just in case it doesn't happen fast enough. But the ones who win, the ones who make history, they burn the boats. They eliminate the possibility of turning back. They commit so deeply to plan A that failure is not an option. Not because it's impossible, but because they've decided it's unacceptable. Burning the boats isn't just a dramatic image, it's a mindset. It's a declaration that you're going to make it work or die trying. It means cutting off every escape route, every excuse, every distraction that could pull you away from your mission. It means shutting the door on plan B so that you have no choice but to fight for plan A with everything you got. Because when you leave the back door open, your mind starts wandering. It starts thinking about comfort. It starts craving safety. But comfort doesn't create champions. Safety doesn't produce greatness. Think about how many times you said you wanted something but never fully went after it. How many times you dipped your toe in the water, tested the temperature, but never dove in. That's because you had a backup plan, a job you could fall back on, a support system that could carry you if you slip, a reason to quit if it got too real. But let me tell you something. If you want to live a life most people never will, you have to be willing to do what most people never do. You have to be willing to go all in with no guarantee it'll work out. Just faith, hunger, and work ethic. When you burn the boats, something changes inside you. You move different, you think sharper, you act faster because you know there's no rescue coming. There's no plan to fall back on. That pressure, that urgency, it forges strength, it ignites purpose. You stop procrastinating, you stop blaming. You stop blaming, you stop waiting, and you start building, creating, executing because your life depends on it. People who succeed at the highest level aren't the most talented. They're the most committed, they're the ones committed decision and refuse to go back. They made plan and the only plan. That's what Kobe did. That's what Serena did. That's what Oprah did. That's what every legend, every icon, every giant did. They burned the boats and bet on themselves. No safety net, no soft landing, just raw belief and relentless action. And don't get it twisted, burning the boats isn't about being reckless. It's about clarity. It's about alignment. It's about putting every fiber of your being into the thing you say you want. It's waking up every day and saying, I'm not leaving until this is done. It's standing at the edge of doubt and jumping anyway. It's grinding through the pain, the failures, the sleepless nights because you've made a choice. Here's what happened. When you eliminate plan B, your mind unlocks. You stop entertaining excuses. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop being average because there's no option but to be great. You're not hoping anymore. You're working, you're not wishing, you're creating. You're not asking permission, you're taking ownership. That's what burning the boats looks like. So many people are walking around with potential but no purpose, ambition but no commitment, talent but no follow through. Why, Papa? Because they never fully closed the door behind them. They always kept the option to quit. And when you keep quitting on yourself, you teach your brain that it's okay to fold under pressure. But when you burn the boats, you send a message to your soul. We're not backing down. We're not turning around. We're finishing this. That kind of mentality builds resilience. That kind of decision creates momentum. That kind of focus wins championships. You can't climb the mountain while dragging your fear behind you. You gotta cut it off. You gotta burn the boats. You gotta say to yourself, I'm here now. I'm committed. I'm ready to fight for this until it's mine. Because when there's no turning back, the only direction is forward. And forward is where the dream lives. Comfort is where dreams go to die. It's that soft pillow that whispers to you, you can take it easy today, when deep down you know you should be grinding. Comfort is the warm blanket that lulls you into a routine life, a safe life, a predictable life, but not a meaningful one. Comfort doesn't demand anything from you, and that's exactly why it's dangerous. You don't grow when things are easy. You grow when it's hard, when it's uncomfortable, when you're stretched beyond what you thought you could handle. And that's why plan B is your enemy. Plan is comfort. It's the thing that gives you permission to not go all in. It gives you the illusion that if plan fails, you'll still be okay. But if you truly believe in your purpose, if you truly want success, okay should never be good enough. The problem is, most people don't want to suffer. They don't want the stress, the late nights, the failures, the pressure. But here's the truth. Pressure is a privilege. Pressure means you're in the game. Pressure means you're doing something that matters. It forces you to become more focused, more disciplined, more relentless. You stop making excuses because you don't have time for excuses. You stop complaining because you realize that every second spent whining is a second you could have used to work, to learn, to improve. Comfort gives you the luxury to be soft. No plan B forces you to be strong. When you get comfortable, you stop evolving. You stop pushing your limits. You stop taking risks. And without risk, there's no reward. Think about it. Every breakthrough in history happened when someone stepped out of comfort and into uncertainty. Steve Jobs didn't build Apple by playing it safe. Muhammad Ali didn't become a legend by staying comfortable. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb by quitting after the first few failures. They all chased something greater than comfort. They chased legacy, purpose, impact, and none of that lives in the comfort zone. Comfort is deceptive because it feels good in the moment. It tells you you're okay. But being okay today can destroy your tomorrow. You're not meant to settle. You weren't built to just survive. You were built to lead, to dominate, to rise. And that rise only happens when you choose discomfort, when you willingly step into the unknown, when you strip away every excuse and say, it's now or never. Look at the people who are stuck in life. Look at the ones who had dreams, but never made them real. They all had backup plans. They all said, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, at least I'll still have something to fall back on. But falling back becomes a habit. It becomes the default setting. And once you start falling back, it's hard to move forward. That's why you must kill the safety net. Get rid of the fallback. Because when there's no net to catch you, you learn how to fly. You don't stop mid-jump, you push with everything you've got. Your dream deserves your full commitment. It deserves your full presence. And comfort is the enemy of that commitment. It's the easy path, the wide road that leads nowhere. But growth, that's the narrow road. That's the path with thorns, the one that hurts, the one that challenges you to the core. But that's also the road that leads to greatness. No plan B means you've chosen the road that demands your best every single day. It means you've accepted that greatness requires sacrifice, struggle, and yes, a whole lot of discomfort. People will tell you to be realistic. They'll say it's smart to have a backup. But if your dream is real, if it's calling you every day, waking you up at night, pulling at your heart, then that realistic doesn't cut it. Backups don't feed passion. Plans B, C, and D don't light a fire under you. They put it out. They tell you it's okay to quit. But when you remove the backup, when you say, I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn, but I will not retreat, you become unstoppable. Don't fall for the trap of ease. Don't let comfort numb you to your own potential. You're capable of more than you can even imagine, but you'll never find out if you keep choosing what feels good now over what will feel right forever. The grind, the challenge, the sleepless nights, the rejection, it's all part of the process. It's all part of earning what most people will never have. And that process doesn't live in comfort. It lives in the zone of pressure, purpose, and persistence. So throw away the plan that gives you permission to settle. Shut down the voices that tell you to take it easy. Stop waiting for perfect conditions and start moving with reckless purpose. No plan B means you're not interested in what's easy. You're obsessed with what's necessary. You don't need comfort. You need challenge. You need resistance. You need resistance. You need the fire. Because that fire is what will forge your greatness. Fear is real. It's that voice in your head that whispers doubts when the pressure is on. It tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. Strong enough. Fear is what makes most people hesitate, what makes them shrink back when it's time to move forward. But when you make the decision that there's no plan B, fear stops being roadblock. It becomes fuel. It becomes a driving force. It lights a fire inside you that said, I can't afford to be afraid. I have no choice but to act. When there's no escape plan, when you've cut off every other path except the one ahead, fear no longer has the same power over you. You stop negotiating with it. You use it. Most people try to eliminate fear before they move. They wait to feel brave, confident, and sure. But that's not how it works. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in spite of it. When you commit with no plan B, you don't have time to entertain fear. You move anyway. You keep on anyway. You keep going anyway. You keep going anyway. Because fear doesn't stop the committed, it just sharpens their focus. It reminds them how much is at stake. It reminds them there's only one direction: forward. You see, when you have a backup plan, fear is comfortable. It tells you it's okay to give up. You got something to fall back on. And the moment you start to believe that, you start pulling back. You stop giving your full effort. You start playing it safe, avoiding risk. But when you take away the net, when you make failure not an option, fear becomes a tool. It keeps you alert, keeps you humble, and keeps you grinding because you know there's no one coming to save you. You either rise or you fall, but you're not going back. Fear can be a motivator. When you channel it, when you learn to use it, it pushes you to prepare harder, to stay ready to execute under pressure. It makes you study when you're tired. It makes you practice when others sleep. It makes you obsess over the details because you know the price of failure is high. Not because you're afraid to lose, but because you refuse to settle. No plan B means you don't have the luxury of waiting until you feel fearless. You take the fear and turn it into fire. When you're running with fear as fuel, your instinct sharpens, your hunger intensifies. You move faster, think deeper, work smarter, because everything is on the line. There's no fallback. There's no, if this doesn't work out, it has to work. You remove the exit, you've locked the door. And that decision alone gives you power. It forces you to grow into a version of yourself you never thought possible. You become resilient, adaptable, and dangerous in the best way. Fear tries to limit your imagination. It tells you to stay small, stay quiet, stay safe. But no plan B sets your imagination free. It forces you to dream bigger, plan bolder, and believe harder. Because you need every ounce of belief to push through. You start visualizing success not as a wish, but as a reality you're constructing with your bare hand. You see yourself already walking in the thing you're building, and that vision pulls you through the fear. Let me be clear. Fear will always be there. The difference between those who win and those who don't isn't fear. It's how they respond to it. Winners embrace it. They respect it. They don't deny it. They use it. They say, I'm scared, but I'm moving anyway. I'm unsure, but I'm showing up anyway. That's what makes them different. That's what makes them dangerous. That's what makes them unstoppable. Most people fold under fear because they built a lifestyle where quitting is an option. They built mental exits they can run through when things get hard. But when you remove all the exits, when you shut down every backup plan, your only option is to rise. Your only option is to transform fear into energy, into movement, into results. You don't have time to doubt. You have work to do. You have a life to build. You have a dream that's depending on you. Fear tells you to slow down. No plan B tells you to speed up. Fear tells you to play small. No plan B tells you to go big or go home. Fear wants you to second guess yourself. No plan B wants you to trust yourself, back yourself, bet everything on yourself. You can't serve both. You gotta pick one. Either you let fear run the show or you take control and run through the fear. So when that fear creeps in, and it will, remember why you started. Remember why you burned the boats. Remember the fire that made you commit in the first place. Because fear may show up at the door, but it doesn't get a seat at the table. Not when you're locked in. Not when you're all in. Not when there's no plan B. You take that fear, throw it in the engine, and let it drive you straight through every obstacle in your way. Because that's what it takes to win. That's what it takes to be legendary. Resilience isn't born in moments of ease. It's forged in the fire of adversity. It's developed when you face setbacks, obstacles, and rejection and still decide to keep going. When you choose to eliminate plan B, when you strip yourself of the option to quit or retreat, you force yourself to grow stronger than the challenges in front of you. You no longer have the luxury of stopping. You no longer have the time to feel sorry for yourself. You learn to endure. You learn to persist. You learn to adapt. That's where resilience is built. When you got nowhere to go but forward. Most people don't build real resilience because they've always had a way out. They've always had that safety net, that cushion to fall back on. And every time things got tough, they took it. They backed off. They justified quitting. They told themselves they'd try something else, go another route, start over. And that's the cycle that keeps them average. But the ones who rise, the ones who break through, they took away their options. They decided they were going to make it work, no matter how hard, no matter how long, no matter what it cost. That's how resilience is born. Not through comfort, but through necessity. When you got no plan B, every failure becomes a lesson, not a death sentence. You can't afford to break down. You don't have time to wallow in defeat. You take the loss, learn from it, and get back in the fight. There's no room for self-pity, no space for excuses. You build mental toughness because it's the only way through. You learn how to pivot. You learn how to get creative. You learn how to make something out of nothing. That's what happens when quitting isn't on the table. You find a way. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about never staying down. It's about deciding over and over again to rise. And when you've committed fully to plan A, when you said to yourself, this is the only way, you tap into a different level of strength. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop needing encouragement. You become your own fuel, your own power source. That level of self-reliance, that ability to move through storms without breaking, that's resilience. And it doesn't show up all at once. It's built moment by moment, choice by choice, every time you refuse to stop. No plan B means you don't get to pause when things don't go your way. You don't get to take long breaks waiting for inspiration to come back. You keep showing up. You keep pushing forward. You keep climbing, even when the mountain seems endless. Because you've already made the decision, I'm going to see this through. That decision becomes your anchor. It holds you steady when everything else is trying to shake you. That decision becomes your strength when your energy is gone and your hope is thin. You don't need to feel good to keep going. You just need to remember why you started. Adversity becomes your training ground. Setbacks become your gym. Every no becomes fuel. Every failure becomes feedback. And the more you get hit and keep moving, the more confident you become. Not because things are easier, but because you've proven to yourself that you can take the hit and still keep standing. That belief, that unshakable confidence is the heart of resilience. And it only grows when you eliminate the option to quit. When people have a plan B, they panic at the first sign of resistance. They fall apart when the path isn't clear, but when there's only plan A, you stay in the game. You get back up faster. You look at the problem from new angles. You become more resourceful. You start asking better questions. You stop blaming and stop building. You stop reacting and stop responding. Resilience is not just endurance, it's evolution. You become sharper. You become wiser. You become someone who can handle anything. You begin to realize that it's not about being perfect. It's about being persistent. You don't need to win every round to win the fight. You just need to outlast the opponent. You need to keep swinging when others walk away. Keep working when others give up. Mamma mia. Keep believing when others have lost faith. That's what separates the successful from the forgotten. The willingness to stay in it longer, to suffer through the process, to keep chasing the vision when nobody else believes. And all of that, the grit, the toughness, the fire, that only comes when you make the decision that this is it. No escape, no surrender, no other option. You build your resilience every single day by showing up for the dream. You don't wait for the perfect moment. You don't pray for it to get easier. You just keep rising, keep building, keep going, because resilience isn't something you're given. It's something you earn, and you earn it by refusing to turn back. You earn it by walking through the storm with your head high and your heart locked in. Because when you live with no plan B, quitting is not even in your vocabulary. When you eliminate plan B, your focus becomes laser sharp. You stop scattering your energy in 100 different directions and instead channel it all into one mission, one target, one outcome. That level of clarity brings power. It brings precision. You wake up every day knowing exactly what needs to be done because there's no distraction of alternatives. There's no mental clutter from wondering, or what if you burn the boats? You've cut the cord. This is the only way. And because it's the only way, you give it everything you got. Focus is what separates the average from the elite. The average mind wanders. It gets pulled into excuses, temptations, comfort, and doubt. But when you have no backup plan, you train your mind to lock in. You train it to push past boredom, fatigue, and fear. You're not thinking about what happens if it doesn't work. You're figuring out how to make it work. That mindset alone sets you apart. Most people try till it's inconvenient. You push until it's done. Because your goal isn't optional, it's necessary. When there's only plan A, your time becomes sacred. You stop wasting hours on things that don't align with your mission. You're not watching mindless TV. You're not hanging around people who drain your energy. You're not chasing every new opportunity that shows up. You're dialed in. Every move has purpose. Every day is a plan. You measure your time like gold because you know every second counts when your future is on the line. Distraction becomes your enemy, and discipline becomes your ally. Without plan B, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop debating whether or not to show up. You stop letting emotions dictate your actions. You become a machine, deliberate, consistent, and locked in. Focus doesn't come from hype. It comes from making a decision to cut the noise, a decision to drown out the opinions, a decision to do the work whether you feel like it or not. That kind of discipline creates momentum, and momentum creates breakthroughs. People ask how to stay motivated, how to stay on track. But motivation fades. Feelings are unreliable. Focus is built on routine. It's built on structure. When you know that failure is not an option, your habits change. You don't scroll endlessly on your phone. You don't hit snooze. You don't keep putting things off. You become urgent because you know what's at stake. You start training your mind to focus on the outcome, not the obstacle. The result, not the resistance. You don't let your current situation blur your vision. Your vision becomes your compass. When you're committed to one path, your creativity expands. You find ways where there were none. You develop skills you didn't even know you had. Your brain adapts. Your instincts sharpen. Your energy aligns. That's the power of focused pursuit. You see others giving 50% to 5 different things, but you're giving 100% to one. And that one thing, it begins to grow. It begins to respond to your effort. You begin to see results, not because you're lucky, but because you stay focused long enough to earn them. It's easy to be distracted in a world that's constantly throwing options at you. It's easy to second guess yourself when things get hard, but focus keeps you grounded. It keeps you moving with intention. Even when you feel lost, you're not scattered. Even when you feel tired, you're not aimless. Your focus becomes your shield. It protects your mission from the chaos around you. People talk about talent, intelligence, connections. But none of that matters if you don't have focus. A scattered genius won't be the focused grinder. A multitasking dreamer won't be the locked-in executor. Focus is your multiplier. It amplifies everything you do. It makes your work deeper, your message clearer, your progress faster. That's why plan B is dangerous. It gives your mind permission to wander. But when there is no plan B, your brain says, this is it. We either win or we win. And that belief starts shaping your actions. You stop thinking in terms of if all and start thinking in terms of avant. You stop looking for the nearest exit and start looking for the next level. You become obsessive, not with perfection, but with progress. You show up with purpose. You work with purpose. You work with intensity. You live with intent. Every action becomes aligned with your goal because you're no longer flirting with alternatives. You're married to the mission. And that commitment gives you focus that's unshakable. Focus doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get better. You learn to block out the noise. You learn to stay locked in when everything around you is trying to pull you away. You learn to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. That's what having no plan B does. It sharpens your mind. It strengthens your will. It aligns your soul. And with that kind of focus, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that can stop you.